Okay, Year 7, I'm just going to go over some of the questions in exercise 4F because some students indicated that they had a little bit of a trouble with it. So I'm just going to do questions 5 and 6 because we're just trying to order fractions. Now, when the denominator is the same in a fraction, they're pretty easy to order. So if we go up here, and we just had to find the largest one, and in all of these, the largest fraction, or the largest number, is a 1 because they've all got the same denominator with the biggest numerator. So that's the biggest one there. Over here in B, they're all over 3, so that's the biggest one there. In question C, they're all over 11, so that's the biggest one there. And in question D, that's the biggest one there. Now, we've done lowest common multiples, but just in case you'd forgotten, when we're finding the lowest common multiples, we're finding the number that both these two things will multiply into. So I'm just going to do one. I'm going to do question D. Now, I can find a multiple by multiplying them together. 6 times 5 will give me 30. Now, I know that both of them multiply into that because I've used 6 and I've used 5, but is it the lowest one? Now, people who know their times tables will know that yes, it actually is. That is correct. So if I do my 5 times table, I go 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, and I can stop there because I already know that 6 times 5 is 30. If I do 6, do my 6 times table, I go 6, 12, 18, 24, and 30, and they're all the multiples. Now, I've got to know my times table to be able to do that, the times tables. But there's the lowest common multiple. But I could have got a common multiple by just multiplying two numbers. And as it just so happened this time, the lowest common multiple is 30. Let's have a look at another one. Let's look at H. 8 and 6. Now, if I do that, 8 times 6, and I know my multiplication tables, I'll get 48. So that is a common multiple, but is it the lowest? Well, we've already got the 6 times tables there. Here it is. We just did it. So let's do the 8 times tables. 8, 16, 24, 30. Hold on. Look. There's a common multiple. 6 times 4 is 24, and 8 times 3 is 24. So the lowest common multiple here, we actually get earlier, and it's 24. So sometimes there's a lowest common multiple. Well, you'll always get a common multiple when you multiply the two numbers, or indeed when you multiply the three numbers. But it's better if you can find the lowest common multiple. Why? Because the lowest common multiple will give us the lowest common denominator. So if I'm looking for the lowest common multiple, say here in C, the lowest number that both 7 and 3 will go into, well, I just ignore the top and I just look at the two numbers on the bottom if I'm looking for the lowest common denominator. And again, I'm looking for the lowest common multiple. And I know that 7 times 3 is 21. So I know that will be a common denominator. But is it the lowest? Well, let's have a look. If I do my 3 times tables, 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18, and 21. And I know I can stop there because I've already done 3 times 7. And then I take my 7 times table, 7, 14, 21. And no, there aren't any ones lower than 21. So I know that the lowest common denominator of that fraction is 21. But if I look at this one, And again, I ignore the top. Oh no, that's a nice easy one as well. Here we go. Let's look at D. I'll just get rid of that. So what's the lowest one here? Now if I multiply 10 times 5, I'm going to get 50. So that's the lowest, that's a common multiple, but is it the lowest? Because I'm searching for the lowest because I want to make it simple. So I'm going to go through my 5 times tables, 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30. Let's just stop there. Now if I do my 10 times tables, 10, 20, look, there it is. It's 10. The lowest common multiple of this one is 10. They both multiply out to 10. So finding the lowest common multiple is the key. Now, let's go down here. So here we talked about these signs, and these are inequalities. Well, before we jump into what an inequality sign is, if we have an equal sign, that means whatever is on one side must equal whatever is on the other. So 3 plus 2 equals 5. Whatever is on one side equals the other. Now an inequality sign, and you can point it left to right or right to left. Now some people will say, because we normally read, that this one is less than. But it depends which way you read it. But normally we read left to right. And this one is greater than. Let's have a look. So let's take 5 and 3. Well, 5 is greater than 3. But you can read that the reverse way and say 3 is less than 5. That's the beauty of mathematics. We can read it left to right and right to left. Let's take another one. Let's take 8 and 11. Well, 8 is less than 11. So that's an inequality sign. So if we're looking over here now, and we've got to put an inequality sign in. Now we're lucky if these two, they've got the same denominator. So that's pretty easy. 17 is the biggest, so we put the bigger end towards the number that's bigger. So 13 on 18 is less than 17 on 18. Now, to compare these two fractions, right, in H, to compare these two fractions, I've got to get a common denominator. So what I'm going to do, and it doesn't have to be the lower one, I'm just going to change that fraction. And to find what number I need to change to make a common denominator. So I just look at the denominator. Now that makes you think I'm looking at the top. I'm just looking at the denominators, this number and this number. And I want to find a number they both go into. Well, I'm pretty lucky because 5 multiplies into 30. That's why we did all that common denominator work earlier. So, why is that so big? I'm going to grab this one. 3 on 5. Well, and I'm going to leave a big gap, and I'm going to go 18 on 30. Well, what do I do to this fraction? As long as I do the same thing to the top and bottom, well, how do I make 5 into 30? I times by 6. And how do I know to times by 6? Because I know my 5 times tables. I know how many times 5 goes into 30. And if you don't know your times tables, well then you're going to have to struggle. You have to really work on your times tables. So 5 times 6 is 30, and 3 times 6 is 18. And all of a sudden, we can see that these two things are equal. So inside this little box here, we can put an equal sign because those two things are equal. Now, let's look at the next one. 7. Well, again, I have to find something that these two go in together. Now, again, I'm lucky because I know my 7 times tables, and we already did it up here. Look, we did this one. Come on. This is one of the first ones we did. Here it is. Here. Can you see? We already found 3 and 7. The lowest common multiple is 21. So, 21. So I'm going to write 5 on 7. And I'm going to multiply that by 3, top and bottom. And that will give me 3 5s are 15 and 3 7s are 21. And I haven't changed anything because I've multiplied top and bottom by 3, which is the same as multiplying by 1. If you multiply anything by 1, it doesn't change it. And 3 on 3 is 1. And now I can see that 15 on 21 and 5 on 7 are the same. So again, I put a little equal sign in there. Okay, the next one's going to be hard. So I'm going to do an easier one first. I want you to have a look at K. So what have I got? 5 on 6. So I've got 5 on 6 and 9 on 10. Now, this time, I have to change both of them. So I have to find a number that 6 and 10 go into. Now, I can go over here and I can do my my multiplication and look for 6 and 10. So I can go, okay, well, 6, 12, 18, 24, 30. Oh, that ends in a 0. And I know all the 10s end in 0. So let's see, 10, 20, 30. So there is my lowest common denominator. Now, how do I make a 6 into 30? I times by 5. So I'm going to multiply by 5 top and bottom. And I'm going to multiply this. How do I make 10 into 30? I multiply by 3. So that will give me, when I multiply by 5, 25 over 30. When I multiply this, I will get 27 over 30. Now, these are the same fractions, 25 over 30 and 27 over 30. Well, that's what 27 over 30 is, and that's what 25 over 30 is. Now, it's obvious from now we've got the same denominator that the 9 over 10 is bigger. So I'll put the inequality sign in. Last one, because I'm not worried about the negative. We can do a negative later, but let's look. And I'm just going to create some space here. So I'm looking at this question here. Oops, let's get a thinner one. This question here. So I need a number that 5 and 8 both go into. Now up here before, I was pretty sure we did 5 and 8. Did we do a 5 and 8? Maybe we didn't. But anyway, do one now. So let's look for a common denominator of 5 and 8. So I'm going to do my 5 and 8 times tables. So 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40. And I'm going to stop at 40 because I know 5 eighths are 40. 8, 16, 24, 32, 38. Have I done that right? 8, 16, 5 eighths are 40. And what have I done there? 8, 16, 24, 32. Oh, goodness me. And 40. I don't know my 8 times tables, and there it is. There we go. There's the lowest common denominator, and I get it by multiplying each. So now, look at this. If I get my 12 on 5, and I multiply by 8 top and bottom, and this is going to be a hard multiplication, you might like to use your calculator. 8 12s, 8 10s are 80, plus 16, 96 on 40. Now I haven't changed that fraction. I've just written it as a different arrangement. So 12 times 8 is 96, 5 times 8 is 40. Let's take the 19. So I've got 19 on 8. And what do I need to multiply the 8 by? 5. And how did I know that? I did it over here. Here they are, 8 times 5. Well, 8 times 5. Oops, keep getting that one that's too thick. Thank you. 5 eighths are 40. Now 5 times 19, you might like to do that on your calculator. 5 times 10 is 50 and 5 times 9 is 45. So I reckon that's 95 and 40. Now these two fractions are very, very close. But which one is bigger? The 95 on 40, 96 on 40 or the 95? And the 96 on 40. So these are very close. So the 12 on 5 is bigger. And that's quite difficult. So that is how you do those questions from exercise 4F. And the key with finding the number that you've got to multiply by is finding the lowest common multiple. And you've got to remember that that is 5 times 8. And this is 8 times 5. Same thing. And that's how you find those numbers. Good luck with that.